there are two pieces of context that I want to set up just before I begin. The first is that we're very proud to have this opportunity because knowing Shari and my record, we usually drop quite early, so this is probably the one stream we'll have from a dribble. The second context we need to know, and this is also quite significant, is that I'm a history student, which means I'm quite good with numbers and dates. That being said, the first thing I'm going to do, and this is as a response to closing opposition preemptively from before we even started Masters, is Craig expressed that it was a bit unfair, that present debaters have the opportunity to speak in inbounds and also speak at Masters, and therefore they should be put at a disadvantage. I'll do exactly that. So rather than having 7 minutes, I will just do a 5-minute speech in this speech. So because of this, I will allow for you guys to have 1 minute to just ask me POIs right away because, oh wait, never mind. You know what? Fuck it. 1 minute, it's fine. Right, 6 minutes, right? So if anyone has any POIs, I'm happy to take them now. Otherwise, I'll stay silent for the next minute. The lack of engagement here is
Ted?
Yes?
Yeah, to engage, you need to say something. Could you get on to that?
Alright. Craig has conceded that I should be given 7 minutes. What I'm going to do is shout out a couple of people. I want to shout out the Bulgarians for dropping out because we were in reserve place number 1. The only reason we're able to compete is because the Bulgarians dropped out. Probably not the only time they're going to drop today, but hopefully they will. But it's okay. The second thing I want to do is point out the argument here. The first argument we're going to make is that we think Masters as a format is a bit shit and it's bad. And that's why we want to retire all dinos. Because people like Yoni stay around for 60, 70 years, they introduce formats like this because their itch to debate exists, but they can't do another 4th degree from PEP. And therefore they make formats like this. Why is this bad? The first reason why it's bad is because if you check your phones at 10:22 a.m., a certain Zia onward texted, where can we watch Masters? And I want you to think about why that's horrible. Zia is in Madrid. Zia can be going to the Santiago Bernabeu, can be eating croquetas, can be eating tipes, can be doing so many things. But instead, at 10:22 a.m., is choosing to watch a bunch of dinosaurs and Shari and myself do whatever the fuck it is that we're doing. That's horrible. And that in and of itself is a reason for us to worry. Yes?
If you drop out of the PDOs, you could do the same thing.
That is true, but you know what? We'll see what happens. Cool. So that's the first reason. The second observation I want to make, and that's quite important, is that I think Shari and I are put at a disadvantage. I'm going to just recall our chat history. At 9:34 a.m. today, Shari said, oh shit, when is Masters? At 9:51 a.m. today, Shari said, I am right about to pull up a cab. I was very scared this morning, but thank God Shari made it. But the second reason why we're at a mismatch is because if you look around the room at the other dinos, they are literally fighting for their lives. This motion is about them. If they lose this debate, they perish, they don't exist. The people that get slapped away by Thanos, because they're all like 50. We are like 18, 19. We are still young. We still have a couple of years before we become them. So that puts us at a disadvantage. I think you should consider that before you go on to our arguments. Great. What are our arguments though? I don't actually know. First of all, let's define some terms. What are dinosaurs? There are two ways in which you can interpret this. Number one, there are literal dinosaurs. These people, like Roar, like the long ones, like the ones from Jurassic Park, these people should not be in debate. One, because they have sharp teeth, they can bite you, it is very dangerous. Number two, we cannot understand them. They will roar and purr. Oh, that's bad, because then you cannot have intellectual engagement. That's the first reason. The second way you define dinosaurs is as individuals who's been around for more than 5 years. I want to be very clear. Been around for more than 5 years. Try to set an impact in a second. That's an important consideration. Given that then, what are the other reasons as to why we want all of these individuals to retire? We have 3 other reasons that are significant. Number one, you reduce the extent of medical emergencies that exist in the debate. What ends up happening often, as a result of the way in which debate culture perpetuates, is debaters when they come in, they're young, they don't really know what's up, and then they do a lot of things, like drink irresponsibly, like walk around, like consume other things irresponsibly. What that means is that the risk of health emergency exponentially rises the longer you stay in debate. So at the point in which you've been there for 5 years, the chance of you having, for example, medical emergencies during the bout increases. The need for you to pee, for example, increases because your bladder shrinks over time. The need, for example, for you to cough a lot increases. This is bad. Because if these individuals continue to be sick, in those rounds, One, it takes away from resources that we otherwise can be investing in just making rounds work because we need to check up on them at the end of every speech. But second of all, like, it's just very scary to go to an event where you know that potentially like 80% of the judge pool, e.g. Madrid Worlds, will just drop dead the next day potentially and not be able to come back. It is not a very good experience therefore for everyone else, and that in and of itself is another reason as to why I think all dinosaurs should be forced to retire. Before I go to my second argument, I'm very happy to engage with closing government, opening opposition, or closing opposition.
What do you mean by forcibly retire?
So we'll come up to you and say, Mark, you know, you've had a good run. I'll see you around. Go to anyone, please. And we'll be on with everyone. And if they don't want to go to everyone, you know, mock trial works. We can fucking send them to American debate, like that. It's not really debate, it's just making up Wikipedia, all of these sorts of things. Closing government.
Do you think this is better or worse than your round 9 case?
I don't think I had a case in round 9, nor did I think I had a case in round 3. So all it was that the fact that I shouted out a couple of people and, you know, made people laugh is already an improvement. Great. What is our second argument? Our second argument is that without dinos, we're able to standardize debate. And this judge panel I know is fairly recent, so I'm going to appeal to the judge now. Think of these words: epistemic access, delta, all of these words. I don't think Yoni's ever said the word epistemic access in his life. And I think for good reason, because no one knows what that means. But now all of a sudden, and this is good. The first reason why this is good is because it makes me sound like an intellectual, and it makes all of us sound like an intellectual. But second and more importantly, it standardizes the discussion, which is really important because as fellow debaters, we all know that when we look at the draw sometimes, we see these foreign names and we see these like emojis at the end of these names. We're like, who are these people? And then the advice you get is like, you need to speak slow. They don't understand you. They don't know what mechanisms are. They don't know how to use Zoom. And that forces you to change your strategy in debate in a way that I think is unnecessary. On our side, when all of these people fuck off to MUN or American debating, we get the stage to do what we want to do. To say a bunch of weird philosophical wankery and be happy. And that is why you have to side with opening government. Also because we probably won't have another opportunity to debate and I'll have to go job. Very happy to propose.
Is there a mic or just?
That's the mic right in front of you.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't seem to be working.
It is. It comes away. You can't hear yourself from it.
Oh, sorry. I think I'm good. Alright, give me a second. Okay. Take as many POIs as possible. I like engagement. I'm making up for occasional which his entire life. Okay. Starting in 3, 2, 1, go. First of all, I'm going to deal with leader of opposition's response to us and win on their absolute best case. Let's say it's correct that we are actually taking away everyone who's been around for literally 5 years at all. Particularly, all debaters are now going to be below 5. The first impact of this is that finally, possibly debaters might be too young for Jets to hit on. As a result, people might be able to say that socials without having a clue where hitting on. Second of all, if they're 5 years old, they might actually find opening opposition's claims funny. As a result, they might think that they're actually very, very intelligent people. Okay, now, I'm going to start with 3 important arguments that opposition hasn't thought about. The first thing is that dinos are an important source of fuel. In other words, being extremely old and fossils which are really under the ground, let's be real, no one knows your name until you like do something for 10 years and then people know you because you're there for a while, because you're never good in the first place. As a result of that, probably they're very likely to become extremely important sources of fossil fuel. This is really important on 3 metrics. First of all, on scale. Note that the vast majority of dinos come from countries like continents like North America, like Europe, or like Australia. As a result, most of these places don't have natural resources of fuel. So, if you're extracting huge amounts of coal from places in Australia, it's probably better just burn all that common and be done with it. Second of all, note that a huge amount of these people on intensity are important. Most of them are white, right? Most of them come from a time where it was very expensive to go into like Oxford and afford to do to evidence there. At the point that they are burned and their skin gets charred, they might actually have some color on them. As a result, they might actually be someone you can interact with and feel comfortable with. Third of all, notice it's also an intensity, right? Most dinos have like egos larger than like Venezuela's oil reserves, in which case you can probably fund significant amounts of countries with them when you burn them. Second of all, talking about euthanasia. No, opening opposition says that you cannot retire dinos properly. The problem is you can also do it permanently, as a result getting rid of them completely. For example, you probably don't need to do that for Yoni, just wait a few days, but for other people, you might actually slip in a few drugs into that kind of like cocktail or whatever. Why is this really important? What opening opposition says is like people might not keel over. The problem is if someone does have a stroke while giving a speech, as a result of that, you might have to go onto their chest and blow air into their mouths. If you've seen some of these people, you'll know why that sounds like a horrifying thing to do. As a result, I think you should probably avoid that. But second of all, it's about setting the precedent for euthanasia being fine. Some people live lives of agony, of absolute pain, right? They have to live in constant fear of just wanting to die because they cannot say anything, their brains are deteriorating, they're just uncomfortable all the time. So, for the Irish, it's very, very important for them to be euthanized, and hence we need to set a precedent for them in the first place. Finally, why is it that...
Who actually pays attention to debating?
You?
Sharia,
Yeah.
I really like how you're making us all experience the exact feeling that you're describing right now.
Wanting to die? Well, at least I know how I feel. Okay, what other arguments are there for retiring dinos? I'm not sure. I want to hear why first. Any others? Closing government?
Do you have any jokes that aren't just about old people being sick?
No. No, honestly, not much. Okay, why else should you retire dinos? No depth explanation of why dinos might be the show. As a result, if you get rid of dinos on Earth, a few things happen. First of all, when fewer people are being eaten up, and that reduces the fertilizers for farms in the first place, often you need to farm better things like plants. As a result, it's probably better for the environment. But second of all, if you burn dinosaurs instead of like actual fossil fuels, you might also be better for the environment, because as a result, you might have lesser...
Sharia, you said Ted's a history student. You know dinosaurs died a while ago.
No. I said PPE. I've never learned about this in the first place. Honestly, I want to keep my confidence for video, so I'm going to leave now. Goodbye.
The last week of the competition, first opening up here. Well, I guess we'll start with some rebuttal to that opening government team. The first argument they say is that dinos are bad because you get sick a lot and that wastes a ton of resources. I can personally confirm the first part is true. I've been sick for the last 2 days. But I can confirm to everyone no resources were wasted on my behalf. The only message I received was the adjutant telling me I better fucking come here today because I'm needed as a judge. Secondly, they suggest that dinos might be useful as a source of fuel. I know these guys are young, but I thought they might be old enough to hear of climate change and why that might in fact be a bad idea. Lastly, they tell us that they might force dinos to engage in euthanasia. I would say that that is bad for the reason that every European team I've judged so far has insisted on explaining to me something called the state power principle. Force people to do things. Euthanasia seems like it would then involve forcing people to do things. Okay, time for some new substantive. Argument number 1, we would say that the revealed preference of the circuit is that they do in fact love dinos. Why is this necessarily the case? I think the best proof I can give for this is just to provide a story that Tim gave to me a couple of nights ago. I was talking to him about how his tournament had gone, and he said, well, I know I'm getting really excellent feedback from my panelists. I said, oh, how do you know that? He says, well, most of them have asked me for autographs after the round. And one of them asked for a photograph. So I would suggest that clearly, at least some people very much in love with dinosaurs, very keen to engage in that level of worship. And it would be a real shame for those people to lose out there. Second piece of substantive, we would say that in the absence of dinosaurs, you increase the number and the quantity of the most annoying stakeholder at Worlds. People whining about not breaking because they got poor judging during the in rounds. Dinos provide a very useful judging service. We would say that it'd be very poor if we now have to listen to even more people claim that, oh, I got bad judging, I didn't break, worlds are so unfair. Next piece of substantive, we would suggest that dinos provide a very useful service in holding back the AI apocalypse. We would suggest that without Harish there to valiantly fight off against the advance of the various AI doombots, then we might run into the end of times relatively quickly, and that could be pretty bad. Yeah, sure.
So the problem with the AI thing is that some of the dinos are really, really, really big advocates of virtual reality, such as our very own Desmond.
Virtual reality and AI.
I'll explain it in my speech. Would you like to?
It seems like it's not very funny if everyone's not in on the joke. Okay, that's a bit of a shame. Okay, next argument, we would suggest that if you go after the dinos, this creates a slippery slope, and the consequences there are quite dire. First, you go after the dinos. Next, you go after the IAs, and we suggest that, for example, if this was, that might be the reason why the IA funding was so poor. You know, Mark was explaining how we got no funding at all. I've had to listen to the New Zealanders explain how their funding was insufficient for nearly the entire tournament. It'd be nice to not have to hear any of that. Any additional POIs?
Yeah. Surely if a bunch of people are forced to fuck off, and the team break size is smaller, so more people could break. But also, more of these people just fuck off and stop playing.
Why would it be good if more teams broke? We would suggest that is probably a bad thing. Probably better if fewer teams could break. But also, the break wouldn't change its size, right? Like, it would still be 48 teams breaking. It might be a big proportion of the overall breaking. Really, I think leaning into that lack of mass ability from your speech. Okay, so, overall, yeah, POIs, come on, let's go. Yeah.
You look nice.
Yeah, Mark, what do you think?
Oh, it's the great.
You got sports to stand for me, Mark.
Do you want some of ours?
Pardon?
Do you want some of ours?
Yeah, sure. What do you got?
What do we have written down?
Give them the loose one.
I think you could do a dinosaur impression, like really one.
Dinosaur.
Wait.
Oh, do your impression of people from the Balkan.
Might not be a great idea. Yeah, what do you got?
Do you agree with us that if we got rid of the Masters format, that entire stupid argument in council yesterday was fucking pointless, and everyone should be really disappointed with their lives?
I wasn't at it. What argument happened?
Apparently this Masters is unconstitutional.
Oh yeah, do you want to kill me now?
People bickered, people held a lot of proxies, a weird, stupid vote happened.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You still look nice.
Yeah, I don't feel it. Anyone else?
How old are you?
How old am I? I'd rather not say. I think old enough to be personally offended by this talk. Okay. Well, I'm going to finish up here then. Thanks.
Okay, I would like that speaker for a speech. Now I'd like to give the floor to the first speaker of the closing member of Covenant. Here. We're going to get the Irish introduction for 15 minutes. We'll get the Irish introduction for 15 minutes.
sense of us enclosing government, as it is our first in-person worlds, and for me first ones, I would argue that we are even less of a dinosaur of some of the much younger teams at this particular competition. But I would also say that we need to question what is it that dinosaurs have ever given us. Because in recent times, I think what we can see is they've given us double panels and no-nose judging, and massively devaluing the quality of previously esteemed competitions like HWS, like this one. I think it was a bit odd for the previous speaker to just be very, very jealous for a bit of Tim. And having photos, and extend the offer to have a photo with the funniest team in the top half over the competition. We hear as well a little bit about how absence is going to increase the quality of wines. And I'm not sure if opening competition have ever come across a judge that is miserable about their allocation or thinks that they have other things that they can do with their life instead of being in a debate competition. We think that is just a different problem within the code break.
Compromise. If we give you Eric Barnes, will you let the rest of us survive?
I believe in collective punishment. But I'll also put out the main argument for making competitions are, first they come for us, but what if they came for Sydney? What if they came for Sydney? I mean, we get 5 slots back in the game. I mean, it's not like this is the most underrepresented institution or circuit within the break at this particular world competition. But I also think that what was very clear about the weird discussion that happened towards the end, but also about 8 hours of yesterday, is that world's governance is actively made worse by older people being around debating. And that maybe if we gave it over to people who know less about governance is a sexy topic, by the way, things would be slightly quicker. A few things to start off with though. Firstly, if we didn't have dinosaurs, Ted and Shari wouldn't have broken at this competition. We think that is a good thing. Secondly, we also think that when I say they wouldn't have broken at this competition, I mean the open break, and that would have enabled them to put literally any effort into their case study, and we would have had to sit through what was arguably 14 minutes of that. We also feel that at Zagreb, we think that there are a bunch of dinosaurs on the final panel. Milosh, she turned up something, Rob, Joseph, and myself, Gay Flex. But we think the problem with this is that these dinosaurs just pick the things that they're used to hearing and like to hear, which is an Irish team talking about random left-wing stuff. Whereas maybe it would have been better for us to pick an ESL team, and that is maybe something that wouldn't have happened. We also think that Wales wouldn't have broken at this competition if we didn't have dinosaurs around anymore, and that's not bad. Anyway, we also want to talk about actual dinosaurs a little bit. Context. We think that as Central Pangea, we have a slightly better conception of what dinosaurs look like than city-states A. I'm interested to see what city-states A look like with dinosaurs. Opening government basically saying, ooh, they have sharp teeth. We are going to better recognise sharp teeth. So what happens is that dinosaurs get taken and they get studied for their secrets, like Elon Musk and the CIA stealing immortal people in round 8 and stealing them for their secrets. We think that this makes these dinosaurs angry and scared when some child happens to know your name that you've never met before. And we think that it just feels like they're a weird social media stalker pretending to be Jeff Goldblum going around Jurassic Park being excited about all the dinosaurs. We think this better mechanises the open government claims rather than just using super sharp teeth. But we think that dinosaurs fundamentally create a significant access problem for people more generally at competitions because they kill you or they fly around and go, caw, and then take you away to a different place. And we think that is maybe a problem, although maybe they're an alternate to lifts. Who knows? Do you need a key for a pterodactyl? Anyway, we think that fundamentally, if you get rid of dinosaurs, you have less good judges. And we think that's good, because we think worlds will be improved by significantly more rogue judging. We think that leads to much less predictable outcomes. We think this is a far more successful way of producing interesting, maybe slightly more meritocratic breaks, rather than relying on big name teams like LCD to significantly more have a C18 full of dinosaurs, you get questions like intellectual property. Oh, what a juicy topic. And you then get things like, I don't know, women or other people that aren't men. And I think that would maybe be something that we could all benefit from. But what has been really missing in this debate is how this particular extinction event comes about, or retirement event comes about. We think this looks like a giant meteor strike of next year's World's Masters. Not this year's World's Masters, just to be absolutely clear. Or maybe the city of Barcelona. But we think it's reasonable for us to have vengeance exacted by the C18 on these individuals. We think there's a principal duty that the C18s, even though they themselves are dinosaurs, to exact revenge on other dinosaurs. I don't know if there's a point of information from the opposition.
Nah, sorry, I'm just resting.
It's all good to have a rest. In the last minute of my speech, I'm just going to focus on what I think is the most vulnerable actor within this particular book. That was a great catch, by the way. My fine motor skills do not fail me. And that is people that post on debating serious postings. The problem is that as somebody who has been around for a little bit, I think I've seen people make 500-word posts on why tournaments should publish their financial statements in advance of the competition to justify their reg fee about 17 times. And Cart's latest attempt was absolutely no different to them. The problem is when dinosaurs are around, you get less traffic on these particular posting sites. And I think it's important we keep that going, because that's how we get some nonsense stuff. And I forgot what the end of this joke was. And yes, I will take the point of information.
If you want to get rid of long serious posting posts, an alternative method is to kill Dylan.
Okay. Anyway, proud to propose we will.
I want to take that speaker for a speech, and I'd like to give the floor to the first speaker of Semifinals, and then here.
Just worried about him falling over, like poor people.
There's a birthday card with £2 waiting for you.
Is that a dinosaur on your flag?
Before I begin, this is probably the only time I get to do this on an international stage, but this speech is sponsored by Ribena. Good beverage, Ribena. It's delicious. Fuck, I'll down if you want. Okay. Are you ready? Yeah, it's about time some comedy happened. Shit, apparently I'm not. Panel, as probably the only debater in this round which age begins with the number 3, I think I have a significant amount of context I want to necessarily bring you. That I think necessarily means that as much as we make arguments in other debates about how we need to ensure future fuel supplies and prices are low for all people so they don't die in the cold. I think the alternative from government wanting a giant massive meteor to heat us up is not the form of warmth we were necessarily looking for, over the winter season. So maybe don't do that. Also, know about the idea of the asteroid. I hear loads of debaters complaining about heat all the time. I think that gets significantly worse to the point in which a giant massive flaming rock comes down to the point of trying to wipe us out. That seems like a particularly weird thing to do. I'm going to do a couple of things in this speech then. One, I'm going to talk a little bit about the idea of fake IDs and the ways in which people try to impersonate being young. For example, fuckers like me wearing Pokemon t-shirts. So, I'm going to talk to you about how old people have difficulties making friends, and you just make us even more lonely. I'm one of the loneliest people in the fucking world. That's going to get worse. Furthermore, we're going to talk to you probably about the idea of the copy of the art. Anything I want to say against the gun bench will generally get integrated. Yeah, sure, why not? That's a thing that debaters say. Keep that going. Alright, one of the idea of trying to impersonate, right? I think OO are right, insofar as, you know, you are just going to get people who are that dedicated in trying to do things like, you know, the facial expression. I think it gets worse in a couple of ways. One, I think that they end up buying a load of fake IDs, which necessarily means you have like loads and loads of debaters hanging around with really, really seedy background club guys necessarily giving them. So you have like some of the worst people in the world dealing with seedy background ID. But also no, I think there's a way in which they try to impersonate themselves significantly into the young culture, right? So for example, like I said, I already wear Pokemon t-shirts, you can necessarily see that. That is a joke the judges can necessarily understand. But no, I think this necessarily gets worse when you have like all of these weird TikTok trends that I don't really understand as an old person. But I can't think of anything worse of like trying to impersonate an 18-year-old, I don't know, doing something like wearing like a crop top and being just walking around being like Zup of TikTokians. What the hell do you people talk about, right? Like the only reason that I understand like the words, some of these words necessarily, is because Alex has to explain them to me in really, really slow pacing, right? I think that's something that just gets like just significantly worse. You just get a shitload of cringe individuals. And if there's something, first of all, the fact I know the word cringe is because I've had to have this explained to me several times. But two, I think I've been told that cringe is apparently the worst thing in the world, even worse than being, you know, a really bad person. So being cringe is something we probably shouldn't want. Secondly then, nobody offering POIs, fucking hell, lads, you really don't want to have fun.
Do you think that Prop have fiat around enforcement of retirement?
Why the fuck are you asking me a serious question? I come up here and literally say I want to inject fun into the debate. What do I get? Fucking silence from most of you. And the idea of, yeah, Craig, he's going to really like the word fiat. The only fiat I want to fucking see is one of those cars that go along the road. Second of all, debaters have difficulty making friends. I think there's a few things to this. One, Jack and Lucy are probably the ones in this debate who come closest to me in age. Look at the room insofar as how even their own gov bench have mediated away from them insofar as distance, right? You'll note that the two youngsters in OG have gravitated towards my younger speaking partner. Even OO is sort of like isolated on their own as well, right? There's a degree to which we have difficulty making friends. I also think it's just different, and like it's just one of those things where like yeah, there's a serious explanation insofar as you know you grow older and you just have inability to maintain these friendships. I don't know. I had this explained to me in the debate once, and it got really offensive. So they were just like, "Why are you offended? We gave you a second when we explained to you that your identity shouldn't exist in reality." I was like, "That might be the key, fucking man." Point over.
Right. Both in or out of debate, if you have TikTok, I will be the first to follow you. What would your go-to content be and why?
I mean, I've got Instagram, and I'm pretty sure you don't follow me there. So also, no, for anyone who wants to follow me on Instagram, the only pictures on my Instagram are wherever I've been there. So specifically, I think there's a degree to which you just have a load of old people necessarily being like, what the fucking hell, being like lonely, right? And I think loneliness is a terrible thing, purely because if you think the whining necessarily gets, you think the whining of like young people not breaking gets worse, you haven't spoken to me about like talking about my feelings of loneliness, because Jesus Christ, I will be fucking, I don't want to say fucking on you for hours, because that makes it sound like really, really bad shit, you know? Like, I will just talk to people and listen to them for hours because I just literally want some kind of connection. That gets literally worse at the point where literally... First of all, we also make jokes in the debate circuit about like, oh, it's bad to unleash debaters on like the public. That's literally all you'll be doing in this situation. You have loads of people who desperately want to talk to someone but don't have the ability to at least impart some form of knowledge onto people, necessarily going, so, can I tell you about the time in which I took a third in a break room and I really shouldn't have, and people just replying, I was your Uber driver from like 2 months ago, please leave me alone. Which necessarily think, I just think you get more cringe people. As we've already established, being cringe is somewhat bad, right? Finally, you got the idea of destroying cocky youngsters. I think it is somewhat insulting that like OG are here necessarily like prepping for their PDO and necessarily trying to use this as like, oh, bait insofar as how can we necessarily like improve ourselves and necessarily get ready. And what they've decided to come here with is this idea of forced euthanasia, right? If you run that in the PDO, guys, one, might have a modicum of respect to you, but two, have fun with the PDO. the joy of the dino, right? We talk about it on an international stage. I think the joy is like the smaller competitions where you do get the fun, like super dino teams necessarily pairing up. You literally have competitions that get called Jurassic Park because of the dino teams that form. I like watching, like if we're talking about watching the youngsters, like the light die in their eyes, I think, while they're probably right to want to assassinate all the school's kids, I think it's more enjoyment necessarily watching these dinos literally tear these fuckers apart. And I'm doing that because I don't have Zach's dino hand puppet thing. That works, right? Yeah? I think that's just more fun to literally just watch these people be like, yeah, we're going to break, we're going to have fun, and be like, no, you fucking aren't. We're going to crush you underground and turn you into fossil fuels that OGs for some reason necessarily want. Look, yeah, like, let's live, like, we're not that bad, I promise. No, I got some new Bibles from that thing.
Well, thank that speak for speech, and I'd like to give the floor to the last speaker of closing government and competition. Here.
Can people hear me? Phenomenal. You get to listen to this beautiful sound for 7 minutes. So it's not an age thing, but it's actually quite torture in the car. Okay, cool. I'd like to thank the CA team of Masters for giving me emotion that I have unknowingly been preparing for this whole competition. Because those of you who don't know me might not realize I don't normally sound like this. I don't normally, when I get slightly excited or upset about something, turn into a raptor. But given everybody else has done an attempt at a dinosaur impression, let me use my fucked up voice to win at least 1 point in this. There we go. Cool. So, I want to do a couple of things in this speech. First of all, I want to thank Yoni for the examples of dinos that he gave at the beginning of the contest. I think it's impressive, and maybe it's your age and your memory, that you couldn't at least name one woman within the context of dinos. Now, this might sound weird because I'm going to stand here defending women and then say you should kill us all off. But what I do think is really important to note is we would be more present, at least in this conversation that I'm having now, than women ever were in any of the in-rounds of this competition. Equally, I want to say, not the speaker's emotions, the speaker. But, you know, the speakers, because a lot of dino men are judging, I would like to shout out to the one female wing I had this entire competition. It was nice for 2 women to get to chat for 2 seconds. That was the one debate that Pastor Beckfeld had. So I'm going to just chat about women for a bit, because, you know, we should get a say. A couple of things. I'd like to thank the biggest movement for women that I've seen at Worlds, which is the top half of this debate. Because ultimately, they must have made the decision that they would like to see 2 women in the Masters final. Because that is the only fucking justification I can think of for the top half of this debate. Equally, shout out to the women in the room. Jessica. I have a couple of words to say to Jessica that I would have said regardless of what this fucking motion was, but it does fit in quite nicely. Jess took CA Worlds incredibly seriously. She decided not only to travel the world the year before she became CA, but she took the fact that she needed to integrate herself into different cultures and understand her judge pool so well. I did think Tinder was a weird mechanism for finding IAs for the judge pool, but ultimately it did result in a somewhat better judge pool. So thank you for that, Jess. There was some questions back and forth as to whether somebody would have the balls to say the story that we all just kept alluding to during the Diana's speech for some reason. It's not super funny, so I won't actually go into it for too long. But what I will say is, Jess is very determined, and when one Tinder date does not result in the outcome that she wanted, she made sure she found another Tinder date that same evening to make sure that it did result in the outcome that she wanted. She then texted, like all any good debater would in terms of gossip, 3 debaters on her way to that second Tinder date to have some nice prep time on what she would and would not say to her Tinder date. Following, she had a nice debrief of that Tinder date, and we gave her some feedback for her next Tinder date. It was unfortunate she didn't manage to fit a 3rd one in that evening, but I'm sure there is still time at the final of this competition. Turn on Tinder, you might find some Spanish people in it, but you will find more desperate debaters who are looking to get in with Jess, because I'm sure she will not retire. She will continue to CA things. She will continue to CA some of the most notoriously highbrow competitions, such as Welsh novices, which she did last year for some reason. Well, not Welsh novices, Welsh something else.
She didn't say any of the Welsh national pubs. She just turned up. We don't know why.
I know why. There was an opera singer in Wales that Jess went on to. Genuine story. Okay. There was some chat about setting debaters out into.
Fine.
Yeah.
What's the highest stake you've given this tournament?
You need to ask Tim Bulich or any Cool. Real world. I think it's really, and it's nice to meet you through that. I think retirement in the real world is not something that we have mechanized. We stand over things like meteors. We stand over things like forcing you to sit through an entire briefing of council, and eventually you will decide to either end it yourself or it will have ended it for you. But finally, what we really think is we should all go on retirement together and have a fun holiday. Lads, I hear Barcelona's lovely at this time of year, but equally I think Pep Nursing Home could be a very nice way for all the male debaters to sit there and talk and just wonder where the women went.
Okay, as someone who looks, sounds, and is the champion of Glasgow Ancients, do you not think there's tension in retiring a bunch of debaters who are old?
Well, yeah, it's supposed to be funny. We're meant to be making jokes here, not actually saying I'd rather none of us did this hobby we're currently doing. It's something you might look into later. Jack and I would like randomness to be reinserted into debating. What are some random outcomes we think are more likely to be funny than anything Top Half said? I think that a team from LSE progressing past a octo final is more likely to happen at the point where there's judges who just think they're all real cool guys than any aging debater who actually weighs the arguments that they make in the debate. I would like to say that the one benefit of killing us all off is that we no longer have to remember such highlights as Thessaloniki Worlds, where they put us all in a farming school up a mountain because debaters' ego got so large that year that 3 people managed to convince the entirety of international debating that we needed to be in a farm school up a mountain because ISIS's next hit was going to be international competitive debating. That is not a joke. That is a post that happened. Thessaloniki took place because debaters convinced themselves that we were important enough for ISIS to be Yes. Secondly, this is not the first time this motion has been attempted. Chennai did a really good attempt at eradicating the dinosaur. Such highlights as Women's Night that took place in a broken down motorcycle roller coaster place where Sally Rooney was projected through a bus and broke her leg. I do think, whilst I wasn't the biggest fan of Normal People being a book written about debaters, read it, it's very funny. I do think she didn't deserve to die at a women's night. And I think the better version of that would be our mechanism for this, of sending a meteor so that we don't ever, ever have to listen to Top Half of this debate. Okay.
I'll defend that speech. And now I'd like to give the floor to the last minute of opposition and information. Here.
Women.
Go Welsh women. The rare subset.
Thank you, Jess, for being a Welsh woman. Is everyone ready?
Do you want a flag?
No.
No. Cool. the other teams made this very, very difficult by not running a single fucking case, which I think just like completely disadvantages me, who didn't really realise that there was another way to debate. A few things I want to mention in this debate. Firstly, Jess's sex life. I think this has become quite an important clash, not only on back half, but on like one of the diagrams of it, which ones they are. A few things to note here. If we eliminate all debaters, so context about Jess. When Jess did turn up to Welsh novices, for some reason none of us can understand, she told me, Alex, tell those novices that I'm 18. I think this is like literally a structural reason that all the debaters are likely to do things such as pretend that they're really young in order to feel like they can still be in this like type of place in the first place. I think the thing to note here then is if we eradicate all of the really old debaters, we're still going to have some like weird people who keep turning up, which is what they kind of do anyway. And this means that I think Jess probably is still going to sneak in, and we're going to completely eradicate her dating pool. I think, look, after the fucking mess that some parts of this world has been, Jess needs to get laid at least once. I think that's a really big impact from this debate. You should weigh it highly, I guess. Let's talk about the cases that are... Yeah, go on.
Jess has been late. Sharm's fucked the entire Edge court.
You might not know this, but sex is also meant to be enjoyable for women. They give us a really good reason as to why. I think even on the basis of that case, that we should drop them out of the PDOs anyway. I genuinely don't think that if that's your PDO prep, I'm really, really worried about you. I thought you guys were better. They also say dinosaurs. We need to get rid of the big issue that is dinosaurs eating people within debating. A few reasons this isn't true. Ted's a history student. We all know where dinosaurs left a really long time ago. Also, if the old people start biting you, please inform equity. This is kind of serious, but I feel like if we have less old people in debating, we probably don't have less medical emergencies because like the young people also seem to do some fucking stupid things like the OGK. But they also then don't have anyone to advocate for people to actually get help when they have medical emergencies. I think that's also probably a good thing. I realise that this sounds very, very serious, but like it's all true. And I love, like people love my POIs, so we can count that earlier and you can imagine that what's happening now. I'd really appreciate it. So basically, also we love to have this whole thing like, old people can't use technology, they don't know how to use Zoom. Neither do the young people, but also OP can't use a mic. They didn't know how it works. They don't understand the process of using a mic. OP opposition couldn't like turn off a camera. So many of you don't understand why the technology is something that's exclusive to old people. Hello?
Alright, why don't you prove your worth and turn off the camera?
I'm not going to get another opportunity to be streamed ever. I need somebody to... I mean, hopefully. But yeah, no, I also don't know how cameras work. Like, I don't think any of us do. That means it's symmetric or something. I don't know. Opening opposition, what opening opposition want? I think opening opposition want to fuck the old people. We just have a lot of reasons to why they think they're really smart or really intelligent and all of these sorts of things. Have you ever spoken to any of these people?
Oh, that's a question. Yes, once.
Yeah.
Okay, you might want to try a few more times and then come to a slightly different conclusion. But I also think that they also only talk about men. And again, this is somewhat serious. But like, if we eradicate one of the dinos, we now also eradicate all the female dinos. I think as like a woman within debating, it's really, really lovely to be able to see lots of like incredibly strong debating women within this room. I don't actually want them to die in the heat death of like a big meteorite coming into this room, or like wherever Mars is going to be, whatever. I think it'd be nice if they didn't. I also think it's less funny if they do, because then we can't make jokes at the expense of women, because men are not allowed to do those things. I think sexting is kind of funny, but only when we do it. Secondly, I shouldn't have said that while being streamed. From the second part of the, I read my notes in a really weird order. Someone said something about euthanasia. Euthanasia surely you have to opt in. Closing government might have opted in, but I'm not sure that anyone else does. I'm unclear on this. Jack does a really good impression of the dinosaur. I'm really proud of you. It's great to see that you learned that from when you were alive, when the dinosaurs were also alive. It's like really good to see that your memory has stood up to that test of time. I think the second thing that they do is that they say this. I don't know. I didn't really write it down because they didn't really say anything. It was very difficult. World's made worse. World's made better because you now have like really random calls. Again, Jack. I don't know what to tell you, but your call in the final of LSE was so wrong, but I don't think that randomness is something that is particularly exclusive to like not old people. I think a lot of old people could get on.
Why did you vote with it then?
because you wanted their respect?
Oh God, no. Not at all. Talk about access issues, we do that better. They say more road judging. They also say, oh, this music will get like more cycles of serious posting. I really love serious posting because I refuse to learn anything about debating that happens in a judge manual. For the entirety of the judge test, I just like control F. Because I don't think that we should like abide by rules or whatever. I think if you know the rules, that makes you a nerd. If you quote the judge manual in like finals, that also makes you like a nerd. Also like, no one's gonna fuck you. I think the second thing is then serious posting. We get better at serious posting on our side of the house for a few reasons. Firstly, because all of the old people are the ones who are taking like the weird amount of drugs and writing posts about why OO is the most like biased position you can be in and why this is fucking wonderful. I just like firstly opening opposition here and proving that to be completely fucking false. Good job, thank you. But secondly, like I feel like that it's a part of the joy to watch old people like argue in the comments of debating like it actually matters. It's really, really wonderful. It makes me feel like significantly better about myself, and I think that that's really lovely. What did we get from Lucy? A series of stories. I just such. I've got no idea what's going on. So I can feel like, yeah. Oh God, for 45 seconds. That's running great. Please slow down. Well, you can't write this out before the final of masters. So what do we get from Lucy? Meteors, council briefings, Barcelona. All of these things happen anyway. Random notes are more funny. She tells some stories. I wasn't listening because like I feel like we should continue the trend of not listening to women as well. You know, I was forced to deal with so many male panelists. Like I feel like I now can't remember how to listen to